Hello and welcome to the Piano Man's Library. My name is Fern and I'm the Piano Man's wife. I thought I would let you know some of the things that I was reading for the second half of December 2025. And it was a lovely reading time for me. I had some very good things, some short stories, as well as a novel. So get right to those. Okay, so the first one that I have, it's actually a collection of short stories by Anthony Trollope for Christmas, and I read this on Kindle. So it was very. Some of them were better than others. Some of them were a couple of them were quite forgettable, but it was the first one, Christmas at Thompson Hall, which is what the collection is titled. It's the first story, and this one I actually read this last year in 2024 for Christmas, and it's quite hilarious. He took one of Dickens' scenes from the Pickwick Papers, and he added to the characters and the environment, from staying in this inn where you get lost in the wrong room, and you can't find your way to your own room, and you end up in somebody else's room, and utter chaos ensues. Well, I have to say he did a really good job, and I loved this just as much as I did Mr. Dickens' variation. So Dickens came first, so that's why I'm saying Trollope stole his idea for the story, but they were both very good. Yes, and then the fourth story that was in here, it's called The Two Generals, and it was really interesting too, and it taught me a few things. It's about the American Civil War, and so there was these two brothers. They were both in love with the same woman. Of course, she preferred the older one and was going to marry him. But the younger one, he went he went north, and he was in the Union Army for a number of years before the war actually broke out. And I should say that their family was from Kentucky. And so Kentucky, and this is something that I learned from Mr. Trollope, Kentucky never officially ceded the Union like the other southern states did. And they tried very much to be a neutral state. Even though they did have slaves, they tried to be a neutral state. And that didn't last very long, because as soon as the Confederates tried to overtake Kentucky, they had the Union come and fight them off. So, but yes, so the younger brother went north, the southern brother, or the older brother, went south, and at one point they were both generals one for the North and one for the South, and at the same time. And they did end up meeting on a battlefield at one point. It was good. It was really good, actually. And I was very happy to learn some history, some American history that I didn't know, because I haven't got really into Civil War stuff yet. I'm hoping to do that this year. It's on my bucket list. So, yes, there was 5 stories, and that is the 2 that I feel deserve to be mentioned. So, the other short story that I read, Rosamund from she was from, what's her channel name? Books from My Bookshelf. She had recommended in one of her winter reads videos Robert Louis Stevenson's Markheim, which is a short story which takes place on Christmas Day. It is a dark story. It is, it's only 20 pages, so I can't say too much. It involves a murder and a possible deal with the devil. So I shall leave it at that. There was one quote, though, that I wrote down. He said, "But about God he was at ease. His act was doubtless exceptional, but so were his excuses, which God knew. It was there and among men that he felt sure of justice." Yes, there was a lot going on in this man's head, but Mr. Stevenson really did a really good job with that. So, if you feel inclined and you have some short stories of Robert Louis Stevenson, I do recommend it. So, and the other book, the only full book that I read, the second half, was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And I love this old this old Doubleday edition. But this was my first, I thought this was my first reading of Rebecca, but as I went along, I'm like, this seems awful familiar. But I didn't know how it was going to turn out. But I just had that feeling over and over throughout the whole book that this seems awfully familiar. So at some point, probably in the early 90s, I think I read this before. So so many thoughts. I have so many thoughts. I really wished I had somebody here that that read the book that I could talk to about it. So many thoughts. It was good. I mean, I thought Daphne du Maurier did a really good job on expressing what it would be like to marry someone who was a widower. Especially back in the days when this took place, because there weren't therapy groups and survivor groups and, you know, all those things. If you lose a spouse, you know, nowadays you can go places and talk about them. And back then they wouldn't have had all of that. So I felt the beginning of the book, I won't get too much into it, but you know, her moving into this famous house, which was famous for all its parties, and everybody, of course, knew the gentleman's first wife. I thought she did a really good job in portraying, especially with a much younger new bride, that, you know, how hard it could be to move into a home that somebody else made so famous and was so beloved by everyone. So I thought she did such a really, really good job with that, and I won't get into anything else because I don't want to give anything away. I think I loved this so much because I didn't know the story. And even though I'm sure that I have read this before now, I still didn't remember the story. So it was like reading it for the first time. And that is the best thing. If you haven't read this book, don't find out anything about it. Just read it. So those were my reading projects for the second half of December 2025. And I'm moving on to all kinds of new things for 2026. I'm excited to tell you about those, but for now, I hope you have a great day. If you have read any of these books, let me know. I know last year that one first Anthony Trollope book story, it was over. After I read it, I saw online several other people had read it too and enjoyed it. So if you've read it, let me know. If you've read Rebecca, have you read Markheim by Robert Louis Stevenson. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.